Hi, Marti.
How are you?
Oh, good. How are you doing? Thanks so much for
Good.
joining me today.
Oh no, it's exciting. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so we have a Monday, and was it not just this past week, Children's Book Week or Children's Literature Week or something like that? I saw it on Twitter.
There are that's
Yeah.
Children's Book Week, and then is usually and there are usually a lot of celebrations, and so some of those conferences and stuff went online instead of
Right.
in person because who wants to miss out on all that fun?
Exactly. So it's perfect that we have this chat today.
Yeah.
So I want to start off by sharing. I went to your beautiful website. It's so colorful with all your books and very kid friendly, I might say. So just to read a bit of your bio that I found, Marti Dumas is a mom, teacher, and writer from New Orleans. She knows, not thinks, that all kids are smart and does her best to show it in the stories she writes. So far, she has written 9 books for children, including the Jaden Toussaint, the Greatest series, the Seeds of Magic series, The Little Human. But her goal is to write 49 or 50. And you know what? You are well on your way, and I'm sure you will get there.
Well, I really, really hope to get there. Thank you for that.
So congratulations on your series. And I know I put Jupiter Storm on the graphic for today, but hey, welcome to discuss any and all of your books if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Marti, first I wanted to get into, because I read a part of your bio that said it was like 2010, it was still a dream.
Yeah.
You're writing and publishing and things like that, but now 10 years later, and you have what, 9, 10 books? So it's almost like
9 books that are out there. Yeah.
You could really look at it like, you were doing 1 book a year, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me about your inspirations and how did you get started on your writing journey as a children's author?
Okay. So I have always been a writer. I think a lot of people are writers, but being a writer might mean that you want to hold your words for yourself, and like that's really sacred and very cool. And so like if you're writing and you're I just don't want to put my words out there, then maybe you don't have to put your words out there. Like that's okay too. Like the writing itself,
right?
Like it's a good ritual. It's a good act for you. So I've always been a writer. I have not always been a person who thought that I would put my words out there, though.
Yeah.
I taught elementary school for 13 years. I've taught all the grades except 2nd grade.
That's me too.
My favorites are 4th and 5th grade.
I can totally relate.
Yes.
What's your favorite grade? What was your favorite grade?
My absolute favorite is, I vacillate between 4th and 5th grade. Those have always been my favorites.
And mine was 6th grade.
Yours is 6th grade. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, like you could do, there's so much fun stuff. There's fun stuff you can do with everybody, but like the fun stuff that you can do with that age group just really, like it really vibes with my own soul or whatever. So that's cool. But, when I was in a classroom, I love books and I love reading and writing, and I think it's really important, not just because it's an academic skill, but because I really think that as humans it feeds us. So then it always feels so important to me for kids to be able to figure out how to write their voice and also how to find books that make them want to read more, because I feel like you discover yourself as much as you discover information about other things when you're reading. So as a classroom teacher, I always have a classroom library, like full classroom library. If we miss our library week, it's really no problem whatsoever because like our library is like jam-packed. But I always had trouble finding books that had brown kids in them.
Oh,
the book was not about struggle. Like I could find some books about
that was my story too.
Really?
Yes. I was teaching in Brooklyn, New York City, and kids were like, I'm not reading this stuff because they needed to see themselves.
Yeah.
And at that time, was it true for you that it was like handful of writers, maybe even 3, that we had in our libraries unless you went out to kind of buy books yourself. And that was Walter D. Myers.
Yes.
It was one of the Sharons. Sharon
Flake, yeah.
Flake. And we might have had one or two Jacqueline Woodson at that time. And
I love Jackie Woodson. She's amazing.
And we had
some, but
and we had the old school Mildred Taylor.
Of course. How could you grow up without those words?
And the kids weren't reading that when they looked, when they saw the cover and they opened it up, because I did it with a read aloud, and they were like, Miss Fraser. It was sad. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
so
it is.
We really needed more. We
needed more. And those books are amazing. Like, all of those authors are amazing.
Truly.
Obviously, the Mildred Taylors are amazing. I adore Rita Williams Garcia. She's an amazing person in person and like in her writing. It's
One Crazy Summer. That's one of my favorite books.
Yes. So all of those books they're great, and that one's even newer than like when I was first teaching. But that wasn't out when I was teaching K to 12, or it came at the tail end of my teaching K to 12. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So all of those books are really great, and I mean, and I hesitate even to put Rita in that category, but a lot of the stories that we had in our classroom that I had easy access to could get like on my budget and like in that easy to get to in the space.
Yep.
That's a thing, right? They were about slavery or about the civil rights movement, and those are important books, and I definitely will always have those books in my classroom. I'll have those books in my space. But if every single time I needed to hand a child a book that had a brown child in it, it was about that struggle, I feel like it's just not fair. Like, it's telling them that that's all their life is ever going to be without me even having to tell them. Do you know what I mean?
And that's why, writers like you and so many contemporary writers in our generation that are doing the different YA and the different subject matter for children's picture books is so important. That whole blog, I forget the blogger's name, you probably know, and he says, he does all these books, and he says it's not about basketball boycotts or, bus stops or something like that, because we have those usual stories, and they're great, as you mentioned, but our kids too get used to some of that, and they come to you and they tell you, hey, my life is, what about the kids that don't play basketball? What about the kids that can't relate to some of those things? I mean, we have kids who are nerds and kids who are mini scientists and kids who, love reading sci-fi and, kids who love gardening and being out in nature. They need books too.
We are all humans, and to have the books all come in if I would hold up a cover of a book, like I'll do one that I'm not going to do read aloud of, right? Like if I hold up a cover of a book and it has a brown label on it, like this one does, and you do what the teacher thing is, which is make a prediction, right? Like, judge this book by its cover.
Yeah.
What do you think this story is going to be about?
Oh my gosh, I wish you were my colleague when I was teaching. I had nobody to talk to this about. I was like, rah, more books, the lone crazy blurred in the school,
Okay. I sometimes felt like that too. But when you're doing that with the kids and they're guessing, oh, it's going to be about slavery, or it's going to be, and like 80% of the time they're right. It's like, I wish you weren't right, baby, but anyway, so then I was like looking for those things, and I obviously, I'm pretty good at helping kids. If I have a long enough time with them, I'm pretty good at helping them find a match. Like, I'm one of those people who thinks that there's no such thing as a person who doesn't love reading. There are lots of people who haven't found out what they love to read, right? And I have a lot of stick-to-itiveness, and I really believe that. So then I'm just going to keep going until we find that you love to read, right? So it kind of, I don't want to say it hurt me, but I noticed, right? I noticed really pointedly how often I had to hand the brown children in my class books that were about white children, so that they would match more of their interests,
with
or
their
more of
interests.
their level. Like there was just more diversity available in those books.
And certainly, I don't think we're saying that only give brown kids brown books.
No.
I mean, I know I read
right? Like
all
everybody
kinds of
should be
stuff.
able to read all the things.
Right.
And but you shouldn't have like a negative societal pattern reinforced in the things that you're pleasure reading. And that goes for white kids too. Like that super goes for white kids.
And Marty, I think too, and I wonder, maybe, I know this is a longer conversation, and maybe we won't say too, because we're writers, and okay. Does that mean that is what the publishing industry just wants to publish?
Well,
when you have,
you
know what I mean?
I don't
like it's almost like, okay,
like,
stories from diverse writers, come here. Oh, you're not talking about boycotts. Oh, you're not talking about slavery.
So here's the thing, is that we were all, I mean, if you were born and raised in America, then you were born and raised in America. Or if you were not born but raised in America, then you were still raised in America. So like, even if you don't consciously think of those things, like we've all of us have been
it's ingrained some kind of way,
right? So then you're like looking for what vibes with you, which means to a certain extent you're looking for what feels true to you, right? So then even a gatekeeper who has the best intentions, and I've met some really cool people who are really, really trying to make the world a better place, but all of us have been programmed, right? So
it's true.
They have the best intentions, but they're looking for the things that resonate with them. Because if you're an editor, you're going to have to pitch the book over and over and over again.
But
right?
it's so interesting.
Agent, you're going to have to pitch the book. So you have to believe in it.
That only those stories where Black and brown people are concerned is all that interests them. That
I don't know if that interest, but like I think it vibes as true and important, right? In a way that maybe a book about a mermaid doesn't vibe as important, right? Or true. So either of those things. So a book about a Black mermaid, I think maybe is like, yeah, that'd be cute.
But we need that.
Someone else to write that. Like I need important.
We need it so much, Marty, because your book also answers the debate that was had this past year about there can't be a Black mermaid.
Oh my gosh.
OMG, the ridiculousness
of that. They're make believe, probably, right? But second of all, I like absolutely loved that whole thing because the girl that's on the cover of our mermaid story, like that cover has been done, like was done probably a year and a half before that whole thing came out. And she looks like her.
Beautiful. I love it.
Cover of this book. So I was like, look, yes, another Black mermaid. It'll be like fun like this anyway.
And not to mention, Marty, I just did a read aloud a week or two ago. Virginia Hamilton Herstories. 2 or 3 of the fairy tales in that book are, depicting the Black mermaid.
Absolutely. And like
it's nothing new, actually.
Books out there that also have like Black mermaids. Like there's a lot in the culture. There's a lot more, and there's a lot of people. I'm totally not alone. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to put these kinds of stories out there. But like in terms of like having big publishing turn this way, I think that they are. But I also think that like each of us, that probably each individual person has to like kind of think about is fighting their unconscious biases, in the sense that like if you connect with something, if it feels true to you, then you're more likely to champion it. If it feels true and important, you're even more likely to champion it. So then I can understand how it would be like, yeah, no, I can speak for this book that is about the importance of like the wrongs that happened in the civil rights movement, or people who rose above it, or like all those kinds of things. Yes, those things are important.
And don't get me wrong, I take my hat off. If a diverse author can break into publishing, mainstream being represented, and that is the story that broke for them, all salute.
Dude, do
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, yes.
Because at some point, it's about, how do you get your foot in the door, and perhaps after that story is published, or a few of those, you are then able to venture and write some other things because you've already made a name and you already have representation and they already know who you are. And so that maybe is the journey.
Yeah.
You know,
on the other side of it, like I really think that those stories are important. Like, I'm not just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have to remember them. We have to know them. I would hope that eventually all of us, meaning all of the Americans,
yeah,
would be able to genuinely embrace all of those stories as our history and not a particular group's history, right?
True.
So like, it is all of our history, and so then they need to be out there. I just also think that other stories need to be out there as well, right? Like, so it's not like for me, it's not an either or thing. For that kind of historical research doesn't give me joy personally, and so then I try to construct as much as possible. I mean, obviously I'm not successful, but I'm always trying to construct my life around joy. And so then, since that doesn't call to me like with its kernel of joy, then that's not the route that I would take. But I don't think it's a wrong route. It's just not my route.
It may not be your route.
Yeah. So
and I would say, years ago, my first teen novel that I published, and I was shopping it to agents, and a number of them were like, I see what you're trying to do, but there's no market for it. And my book dealt with an African-American female being bullied. Mm-hmm. And the whole theme of, the Oreo. Mm-hmm. And while I got good feedback and I got good reads by agents and things like that, nobody really wanted to touch it because it had not been done. And I think it was a little scary for them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm relating to, like you, being the writer who, I have other stories that I want to tell that may, it may not meet with what some other people feel I should be talking about, but that was the story that came to me, and I felt it was important. And we don't talk about, Black girls get bullied too. We're not always, popping gum and rolling our necks and
or maybe
going off on people. There are,
and that makes a great deal. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, no. I hear you. And that's like part of the hard part about, that model, which is like what the traditional publishing, like the big publishing, is based on. You have to find a match. It's like finding a life partner or like finding a spouse, right? Like, the chances that like, a really good agent who might be a really good person in general, right? And you, who are also a really good person, are gonna vibe just on the basis of both of you being really good and having a good mission, is low. So you have to it's either like chance, right? Or you have to be like doing so many people that like you would mathematically have to come across the person that would be vibing with your mission. But they have to vibe with your mission. They have to really believe in it. Because they have to then keep going to sell it over and over and over again.
Exactly. They've got to believe in, But that was just one example, and that's so many years ago. But Marti, let's talk about you and your wonderful work. Jupiter Storm, how did that story come about for you?
Okay, so I'm a dragon person. I was born in the year of the dragon. I vibe as a dragon person. I love dragons.
Is that your spirit animal, or wait,
if that was an animal that I were willing to adopt the phrasing of, that I probably would say that I certainly have more than one time thought about having a dragon familiar. This is like a real a thing for me. However, bizarrely, the story did not start quite in that way. I was thinking that I was going to write. I was like, I'm going to write a story about a dragon. I had said to my editor that I was going to do some more chapter books. Like, we had just done the last that was contracted for the Jade and Toussaint the Greatest series. I said, I'm going to do some more chapter books. But I'm going to put a little bit magic in them. I think I want to write some chapter books about a girl with a dragon, right? And so then I, and they were like, great, that sounds great. I'm sure that they thought they were going to be getting exactly like the Jade and Toussaint books, but with a girl with a dragon.
Right? With a girl,
but, writing doesn't exactly work like that. so I sat down to think about like how the story would go. And I love realism and magic. So this story, the Jupiter Storm, was written really for like either me when I was 8 or 9, or my best friend when I was 8 or 9. Probably at 8 or 9, we were the exact same person, me and my best friend. So it's interchangeable, right?
Okay.
But I was like, what like did I need at that time? And the truth of it is that I needed a story like Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, or like Strawberry Girl, or like Anne of Green Gables, right? But and I had all those stories, and I loved all those stories, and I read them over and over again. But there was something in them that was missing for me. So I was like, what would be the thing that's missing for me? A little bit of magic, and maybe she could even be brown. I mean, right? Like that's the thing. So I like having that realism in all of my stories, like a little realism, but also magic, right? So that I can feel like just around the corner,
just
like maybe it could really happen, like we're maybe only one step off of it. So I was trying to think like, and I was thinking all kinds of things like Puff the Magic Dragon, and you know, like all these kinds of things, whatever. And I was trying to think like, okay, but if there was a girl with a dragon, a little Jackie Paper, like in that song Puff the Magic Dragon, right? Right. Like how would she possibly, what kind of person would be able to have a dragon in our real world, but not have anybody notice that they had a dragon in our real world?
Yeah.
And then it clicked. Like I was at my friend's Amy's dining room table. We co-write a lot of times, and I was at her dining room table, and it just all of a sudden clicked. And I was like, I know the Jackie, my mother.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So my mother passed away a number of years ago now, but
sorry to hear that.
No, yes, and you know, like always, the continual, appreciate that. But my mother was a ridiculously smart. I mean, like painfully smart, dark-skinned brown girl, right? She didn't have like ridiculous long hair or like any of the things that make people, I mean, her face like really like kind of universally beautiful, but like all of the things that make us like in American culture like a little bit closer to like the beauty standard, like she did not automatically have all of those things. Smart though, like ridiculously smart. And I thought if there was anybody who could have been both powerful enough and overlooked enough to have a dragon,
wow,
and not have anybody like catch the thing, it would be my mother. And so then like that clicked it, like that clicked the whole story. And I could, for me, I don't sit down to like actively write a story. I might brainstorm it a little bit, or I might like just be like tossing ideas around, but I don't sit down to write unless I know what the big problem in the story is, and I know how it's resolved. And just thinking that made me know immediately what the big problem in the story was and how it got resolved. And so I just started, like, this was like my fastest one, like way faster and easier than any of the Jade and Toussaint books, which is funny because it's so much longer than those. But it just like, it just came, and I wrote it in a few weeks, like the first draft. And the first draft, it was like pretty close to what the final draft ended up being. Like
really
changes, it just kind of
because they say the first drafts are just,
they say you're telling yourself the story in the first draft. You're like, you're like, oh, you're learning the story, and then the second draft.
Did you feel that you by then had a formula? Are you a writer that kind of generally has an outline, a formula that works well for you, and so that's why your first draft would be not too far off from the final?
Well, first of all, that doesn't always happen. So just, you should know that it doesn't always happen like that. Again, the Jade and Toussaint books, like, okay, hold on. I have a little stack of them. I'm trying to pull one out. There we go. All right. So like, here's Jade and Toussaint, and there's Jupiter Storm, right? So then it took me longer to write this book than it took me to write this book.
Whoa.
Right? But this book for me had to start off as a much bigger, it's the same story, but it was so many more words. It took me forever to like get it down to where it was just the story.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of work with like amazing illustrators to make sure that that the fullness of the story still comes across. But I don't have a formula, but I do believe in the core of stories. And so when I teach writing to kids or do writing with kids, like always, it's the exact, I tell them the exact same thing that I'm thinking in my own head, which is first, you know, the person, right? Then you know their problem.
Yeah.
And how it gets solved. And that's it. Like if
that's
you
it.
A formula, like that's the formula.
Yeah.
There's probably a little bit more in it. Like all of us know ourselves to an extent, but we don't actually know ourselves all the way. So we know, and I'm not saying that we're like lying to ourselves, but we part know ourselves, right? And so then we think we know what we want, or we think we know what we need, but it usually doesn't turn out to be exactly the thing.
Right.
I mean? So if you know the character, then you'll know also what they think they want, right? And they're probably working toward that thing that they want, but then eventually they're going to have to discover what they need. And that's, you know, like how the story will turn around. But same thing for kids. Same thing if you're writing a true story, like a little memoir, or even like a vignette, or if you're writing something entirely fantasy, right? So I don't know that I would call it a formula, but I do think it's true. So then if we want to call it a formula and that helps people, then let's call it a formula. But yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And so do you have, by this time, you mentioned the chapter books, and those would be, is that like the later elementary age, like the 5th grade and more so?
The Jade and Tucson books are a weird crossover. So they are targeted at 7-year-olds. Like when they're written like at 7 to 8-year-olds, but they have a lot of jokes in them. And then like if you think about like Junie B. Jones or like the Ramona Quimby books, like those books have things in them that adults will get, because sometimes the adult is reading it aloud, right? So then like there has to be something that holds the adult's attention as well for the adults. So like there's that in it, and also the things that are on the kids level. So then even though it wasn't necessarily meant to be that way, like we find that we get a really solid between kindergarten and 5th grade, which is a huge span. And I'm so glad that we went ahead and like that this is like the chapter book format, because it is high interest in one sense for kids who are in 5th grade and maybe don't have the stamina yet. Like longer stories. They will read this, right? But also kids who do have the stamina, they'll read it. They just end up reading it really quickly. They read straight through it. So that's like fortunate in that way. But I think it's because of the mix of humor, right? So like my son read the Jade and Tucson books about the same time that he was reading Captain Awesome, not to be confused with Captain Underpants, right? And but then he like also could read them later, like when he was reading to his kindergarten buddies, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize about that joke, like I didn't understand that joke at that time, but now that joke is funny. And the kindergarten buddy, you know,
what grade was he in when he was reading those? What grade?
So he was in 1st grade when he was reading them.
That's like 6 years old. That's like, wow.
He is, in fact, super smart.
He's advanced.
Outline for
his mom is a teacher and a writer, so.
Well, yes, he does have that too. And also, again, it's like spot on for his interest. It's like a life that's like so much like his life. Like there's a lot of things to like pull him in. And I think the things that were most surprising to me about these books, about the Jade and Tucson books. I mean, obviously every mama thinks their child is special. Having been a teacher, I know my child is special, but I also know that I've met a lot of special children over the years. So yes, mine is special, but there are lots of other special ones too.
Yes.
What I didn't expect was I cannot tell you how many letters I've gotten from parents saying, no, legit though, you wrote my child. So like some type of royalty or like some type of something in there because like this is my child. And I'm like, because my child is special, but that doesn't mean, I mean, even if he's 1 in a million, that means that there's 1,000 like him out there. So,
exactly.
So, like, it vibes. It ended up vibing with more people than I thought it would. But I would have been happy if 100 people found that book and were like, "Oh, thank goodness, this was me." Like, I don't know if the money making people would have been happy, but I would have been happy with.
So, Marti, that brings me to the question and often discuss. It's certainly when I was teaching and working as a literacy specialist, trying to meet the needs of boy readers, and that there's even less books with diverse characters for our boy readers, especially those who might have, you know, very specific interests, whether it's sports, sci-fi, science, buildings blowing up, tornadoes, or what have you, because those were some of my kids. They wanted earthquakes, tornadoes, experiments, sci-fi, you know, catastrophes, fire. And I understood that, you know, but they wanted the characters, as you mentioned, that they could relate to, or that looked like them, or that had some other issues going on. But, you know, and so it sounds to me like many of your books are meeting the need for the boy readers, because I know from being a middle school educator, and research has shown that that's when we start to lose them literacy wise. You know, in terms of a broad range of books that the boys can sit and read independently and really enjoy it, because we see the girls read, and they will sit with a novel, or like you mentioned, the chapter books, they'll devour it. They'll sit quietly and read on a beanbag. But our boys, being at that age, very kinesthetic, very active, attention gets a little, you know, here, there. And so have you noticed that you're getting the letters, or the moms and the teachers talking to you about, hey, this book really meets the interests of my boy reader, my male students, and things like that?
Yes. So yes is the answer to that question. Absolutely. And I think that I'm not sure that I'm willing to commit yet to the reason why for that. I think some of it has to do with our expectations. Like, we want to be able to hand kids a book that are a match, like, as many times as possible. So I think a lot of times people try to hand boys books that have boys in them so that they can make sure that they're going that way. And then I think people are honestly more flexible about girls, like that they will hand them either like a book with a girl in it. Either way. So I'm not sure how much of that has to do with like the native need of boys, or like our need as like people to like give them a match.
Give them a match, right?
At any rate, yes. The answer to that is yes. I get lots and lots and lots of letters from parents and from teachers who are like, we're so pleased, thank you, because we needed this. Like, our son needed this. Look how excited our son is to be like holding this book. So I expected that to a certain extent, not the volume, but like I expected that someone would, right? Because I knew I needed it. So if I needed it, then I'm not, again, just like my son, even if I'm 1 in a million, there's still like 1,000 other people out there like me. So then that's, you know, I knew someone else needed it too. But the part that I did not expect, okay, so again, I'm going to do the mermaid, right? Okay. So the mermaid book came out last spring. I want to say the wrong date. Okay, I can't remember, but it's not that long ago. Okay, right. So the mermaid book came out, and so we did a little thing. Like when the books first come out, like and families send you things to be like, oh, here's our reader reading your book, and we're so excited and thank you and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And people do it, but like right at the beginning when you're putting the book out, it's like smart to be able to ask people if you can reshare the pictures that they've sent you. And some people feel comfortable with you resharing and some people don't, and like super respectful about that. So as people were sending me pictures of their readers with the book, I was asking, you know, who feels comfortable with me resharing and da-da-da. and I was gonna make a little collage picture, right, where you've got like, you know, maybe 9 of them put together or whatever.
Right.
And I was thinking, oh, and I'm gonna, you know, try to make it like a diverse mix of kids, because I've gotten so many of these kids. And I'm like looking through all of the like ones that I have permission from, and I'm like, maybe I need to do this in a more organized way, because all these kids are boys. And I don't think they were all boys. Let me go back through this list. Let me go back through the emails and let me make like a folder, like a specialized folder. Okay,
Right.
so here are all the ones that I got. And then here are all the ones that I got whose parents expressly said yes, right? Like, you know, okay.
Yeah.
But like 85% of them were boys. And so then part of me was like, like, is that the graphic? Like, do I want to just have, like, I felt like it was going to end up being some kind of like political statement. Like if I put out a graphic that was like all boys reading this, like mermaid book with the girl mermaid on the cover. But it surprised me. Like I didn't think that. And I also didn't think that the kids that had read the Jaden Toussaint books would also enjoy the other books, because I thought, well, they're really different, right? Like the Jaden Toussaint books are like joke, 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 joke. Like they're funny, right? So then I didn't think that like the one about the child who falls through a mirror and becomes a wolf on the other side would have like the same audience.
Sure.
They'd be, you know, totally different, but they're not. And so then I'm not 100% sure what to make of it. Like maybe you can help me figure that out. Like
well, it sounds like you got some key. Your readers love to read, and once they read one of your books, they want to read all of them.
And maybe that's like a personal loyalty.
Right. So they're like loyal. You got some loyal customers. And I mean, I know I've had male students who wanted to read, you know, things that we didn't think they would like. It might have had, you know, a girl on the cover. It might have subject matter that we, you know, don't get me wrong. I don't think that everything is so gender specific, right? Because I mean, you know.
But again, it's about being able to see yourself, right? Like, if you can see that you're being diversely represented and like that, you will internalize some of that from the cover. Obviously, I just want to be clear. I'm not advocating for people to just go around and change the covers on the books. So that,
like, make it a male mermaid.
That's not what I'm saying.
I don't know.
But there is a certain amount
that makes me think about, not male mermaid, but it makes me think about Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, because I know one year we did teach that with a whole mythology unit. And, you know, you have Poseidon and you have all these mythological, and it's like the girls and the boys love that book, even though, okay, it was, you know, male protagonists, lots of action, lots of, you know, somewhat brutality, or at least the threat of it, and the girls loved it, the boys loved it. And I do think there are a lot of books that cross over to both, you know, I think that's true too. When the writing is good and they can, like we always say, can you picture it in your mind? What is the imagery that the writer is creating for you? And all kids love that rich imagery and storytelling. And so you definitely, sounds like you have struck on that. And as you mentioned, with the balance of realism with magic, you know. So
you brought up those, like the Percy Jackson books. Rick Riordan, like he has a press now that's like well, it's under a Big Five thing, but it's he's like running it. And so then like it's like Rick Riordan Presents, right? And so then there are a ton of books that are coming out under that press that are that same kind of structure, right? Where there's a ton of action and there's like mythology that they're based on, but they're not, but the books that are coming out are super like diverse, like so
diverse. I've seen one of them. Maybe a few years ago. I haven't quite followed, but when we saw the cover, we're like blown away because it's got a black teen boy on the cover, and it's like,
so are you talking about Tristan Strong? Yes. So Tristan Strong is great. I love Tristan Strong. It's like really, it's taking like some African fables and folklore, but like American version of them, which is like, you know, great. in a lot of cases, and
Yeah.
but the exact same thing. So it's like American folklore, and I think it's really good.
With an urban twist.
Yeah, no,
because that's what I really liked about the Percy Jackson.
It's really good. It's all
yeah.
Yes, yes, it's all John Henry and Anansi and like all of them like in the thing. Anyways, it's great. So my son really likes that one, but I thought that like he would like that one the most, and he likes it a lot. I think I ended up liking it more than he did. He liked it a lot.
Really?
He's very critical about stories. He's very critical of story, which I think is an occupational hazard for him for having me as a mama because
exactly.
But he's very critical of story, but he was not critical of that story. He really enjoyed that story. So from him, that's really high praise because he usually has notes for people where he's like, you could have done this, or like this part of it like was a little too long, or I think you had one too many subplots. It's like he will have very specific critiques.
Or like a lot of the kids will do. My students used to say, I didn't care for how it ended. Different ending. And I'm like, okay, you're going to tell the public's author to write a different ending.
But the ones that he really loves that are in that series are the Aru Shah books, which are like the main character is an Indian American girl, like an Indian American teenage girl. And like he is obsessed with those books. He's read them all.
Wow.
He will tell you, well, now he won't say it anymore, but he used to say that he didn't really care for reading. But dude, he read those books. He's read them over and over again. After
it's amazing.
On audio, because you don't know where you're going to, like, where you're going to actually connect. So having a lot of options is really important.
It's important
in all the categories. Because, and having the Tristan Strong book there, having like other books that like represent him but are equally fun. Like fun. He just turned 11. He wants to have fun. He's just fun, right? He's all fun all the time. So all the ones that are having a wide variety, and then he gets to choose, like that makes me feel comfortable. And I wish that like and I know people who are working toward that. Kwame Mbalia, who is the person who wrote the Tristan Strong, and Derek Barnes, and there's a lot of people who are writing right now to try to like they're writing the stories of their hearts, but those stories that are filling those gaps. And so like we need time, but we need space for more people to be in the space too. Like we need more people.
I need to get in there, Marti.
Yes, come get
I got some things I'm finishing up. When I'm done, I'm gonna get back out there.
Please do. That's what we need. We need you.
So Marti, I just feel like I could go on and on, but I'm like, I don't want Instagram to cut us off. And I'm like looking at the time. Okay, so we've got, 15 more minutes or so. Do you want to read something? Do you want to talk about Jupiter Storm? Whatever you want to do in this time we have is fine with me.
Well, you're saying what, but it's your thing. So, I don't really have a pick. I can definitely read. I can do all the things.
Okay. Do you have Jupiter Storm?
I do.
Okay. Can you just, set us up with like a scene and like, and then read just a little bit of it, and then come back and then tell us where to get your books and how we can all follow you and all of that.
Okay. Well, I am not going to do any setup besides showing you the cover.
Okay.
I'll just read the first. I'll read the first chapter to you, but that's what we have there. And oh wait, is it backwards? It's probably backwards.
But I can tell. I can see.
Yeah,
you can tell. It's
the camera.
Yeah.
I'm not tech fancy.
Look, I'm learning as I go. It's been a lot of fun too.
That's all I can do, right?
I'm doing the best I can without having a tech assistant.
I'm striving to learn and grow.
Yes, I'm striving to learn and grow.
That's right. All right. So the first chapter is called Jackie. Jacqueline Marie Johnson was exactly the kind of girl she should be. Tiny, talkative, and sharp as a tack. She liked paper dolls and long division and imagining things she'd never seen. But most of all, Jackie liked being in charge. And that was a good thing, because she was also really good at it. The students in Jackie's school were the most well-educated assortment of toys on the planet. They knew all of Aesop's fables and the tales of Compère Lapin in English and French, their multiplication facts through 9, the difference between area and perimeter, and, in theory, how to make shrimp and redfish stew. None of the toys were allowed to stove, of course, but they could recite the recipe and preparation techniques by heart. Without Jackie's guidance, the toys would have been a truly unruly lot. This was also the case for her brothers. There were 5 of them: Jacob, Jonah, Judah, and Sam. Jackie wasn't the oldest and she wasn't the biggest, but she was the most in charge. Jackie's mother knew she needed to be in charge of things, important things. So she gave Jackie important responsibilities. For example, Jackie was in charge of watering the plants. Jackie was in charge of adding things to the grocery list. And every afternoon, Jackie was in charge of getting all 5 of her brothers to come inside for dinner. This was the hardest job of all, but it wasn't hard for Jackie. Even though her brothers were all over the neighborhood doing all kinds of things, all she needed to get them inside was a metal pot, a wooden spoon, and a stern look. She would clang the pot 3 times, call each boy by name, then clang the pot once more for emphasis. The boys would come running when they heard her signal, but just in case any of them had a mind to be sassy with her about how the street lights were not on yet and it was too early to come in. After she had finished banging on it, Jackie would put the pot on the porch, bottom side up, and step up on it like it was a stage or a throne. Her perfectly polished Mary Janes glinting in the early evening light. Standing on the pot, Jackie was tall enough to use her stern look to stare away all the excuses and the reasons why, so that all 5 brothers washed their hands at the hose outside and filed into the house as quiet and orderly as a communion line. The neighbors marveled at her. Some of them laughed, but it was only the laugh people do sometimes when they're pleasantly surprised. Who could blame them? It was impressive to see someone so little commanding such authority, even when you've seen it many, many times before. So, on this particular day, after the neighbors had gathered to watch Jackie send her brothers inside, they were too busy smiling with each other and chuckling knowingly about Jackie's little ribbons and her shiny little shoes to notice when Jackie noticed the egg.
Ooh.
Okay, that's Jupiter Storm. That's our first one. If you like
Very
eggs,
nice.
like maybes and magic.
I could just see all the kids sitting at your feet like this while you're reading. And when you mentioned those Mary Janes, I was like, Mary Janes. Those are the shoes
right?
from back in the day.
Back in the day, the 90s kind. Yes.
Very nice, Marti. Wow.
Thanks. Yeah.
You are phenomenal storyteller. Aww. And are you on the verge of a book for 2020?
Yes. So I know, right? So I actually had Jupiter Storm is the first book in the Seeds of Magic series. The second book in the Seeds of Magic series just came out at the end of 2019.
Right.
And I am just almost finished with the last book in that. So it'll be a trilogy. I kind of always knew it would be a trilogy. I'm long-winded, as you can tell. So I wasn't sure if I would end up needing to have 4 books, but it's really a 3-story.
It's really 3. Yeah.
So, but it's all in one right now. So fingers crossed that it stays in that one. But
sure.
The third book in the Seeds of Magic will come out. Oh no, wait! You said 2020. That will come out in 2021.
As in, fall because there's always fall.
It'll come out in 2021. It'll be I think February or March of 2021.
But it's
Do I
done.
have anything coming out in 2020? I'm not sure, but we do have, I had 2 that came out last year. So The Little Human is about a little girl who really wants to be able to swim in the sea. And when she finally does, she gets more than she bargained for. So that's that one. And it is I'm going to say inspired by, not based on. It is inspired by the original Little Mermaid, the Hans Christian Andersen version of the Little Mermaid.
Sure.
So a little bit different, but like it's not that same story. It's just like you know, an homage to a work that influenced you as a child. And then I have another one in works that I have to kind of keep quiet, but I will say that it involves flowers, I guess I can say. Flowers and objects. And then there's that bit, but that one is already kind of like in works, but it doesn't have a publication date yet. So I cannot guarantee anybody a 2020 on that one. But, you know, there's other books to hold you over in the time.
It sounds like you got, I mean, it's bubbling. It's in the pot and it's, you know, it's cooking.
Yeah.
So that's great. And so, you know, do you think, boy, I thought to ask you this. Okay, so now we're like virtual with everything going on. Like, do you feel like it would impact like the fall? You know, normally you would be doing like author visits, library visits, right? Different talks.
Yeah.
How does this change things for you?
So all of my, it's like really interesting. So like all of my, for this spring, all of my school visits were canceled, understandably. Well, no, not all of them. So I do virtual visits for classrooms. I try very hard to do as many free virtual visits as I can, the free kinds, because I think that they're needed. So what happens is that if your class has read one of my books, but the whole class, not like a child or two.
Not like 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if your whole class has read one of my books, then we can do a 30-minute Skype visit, or really we usually use Zoom, but whatever, same difference. We use a 30-minute Skype visit for no charge, and I just have 2 days a month that I have blocked off to be able to do those visits for people or whatever. So those visits kept going, but like all of my in-person visits were canceled, understandably, for the spring. People were trying to figure out like how to run school from home, like that. That's like you have enough on your phone. And the same thing for conferences. Like the conferences were all canceled again, understandably.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that will impact. Like I'm kind of glad that I don't have a book that's scheduled to come out in the fall. Not
because they would be those authors are being expected to tour and do speaking and things. So it's kind of awkward.
I can imagine that it would be awkward. I haven't had to like cross that bridge yet.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that it would be awkward. I did, again, the Zoom visits still happen. They were a little bit different. Usually what happens is that there is like everybody's in one room, right? And so then they're all in one room, and they have the camera kind of angled so that I can see them.
Right, you can see them.
Put really big, clear name tags on their kids so that I can
that's nice.
call everybody by name. So that I mean, that's nicer. It's faster. It's better. Everybody feels more human when you can say their name than if you have to be like, you in the back, right? So that's good. But this time, it would just end up being kids like logging into the Zoom from wherever, which was not as much fun because mostly the teachers muted them. So then I could, which again, understandable. I know why they did it, but it made it a little less interactive than I would like to do. So I guess it'll impact us in that way. But I mean, I guess I'm like everybody else. We just have to kind of wait and see, like,
and see how it goes.
What the world's gonna look like.
For sure. Well, Marti, please tell us where we can buy your books and where folks should follow you. Okay, and then we'll close out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you cannot actually buy books on my website, but I do have a website. It's martidumasbooks.com, and you can like catch up news with me, or like you can join my mailing list so that I can send fun messages periodically. I don't know if you like to hear from that kind of stuff. So there's that. On Twitter, I'm at Marti Dumas. And on Facebook and Instagram, I am Mom Teacher Writer.
Mom, teacher, writer.
Mom, teacher,
Mm-hmm.
writer. That's my handle. And then my books are everywhere. So and a thing that has always been very helpful to us, because like the publisher, like Plum Street Press, we're very small, and so then it is very helpful to us. Like, yes, you can definitely order our books from Amazon, and if that's where you order books from, then like rock on, order the books from Amazon. But
Right.
they are available from every book retailer. So if you have a small bookstore in your neighborhood that you usually buy books from, and you go in and they don't already have a copy of them,
Yeah.
then just please ask them to order it, because being with like a small operation means that we haven't literally talked to every bookseller in the country.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
they will get yours and see the books and want to like stock more of them.
Stock them.
People, because they
Sure.
think that'd be great. And when people do that, that has been really helpful to us. In fact, like we didn't have any relationships on the West Coast, but
Yeah.
like now the in bookstore sales on the West Coast are the highest of anywhere in the country, and that was
Wow.
all word of mouth. That was all people just like walking into a bookstore and asking,
And
"Can you order a copy of this
requesting,
book for me?" Yes,
because that's their local bookstore.
that was
So,
their local
yeah.
bookstore, and so then they see the book. They're cute, where they're not going to embarrass you. Like they're cute. They're like well done, and so then
Yeah.
kind of pick them up from there. So that's super helpful to me too. Same thing when people go into their libraries. I absolutely love, one of my favorite things, and I always try to send a little treat when somebody. Now I'm going to get like a flood of them, but I'll still try to send everybody a little treat. Whenever anybody emails me saying that they requested the book at their library and got their local library to order the book, I try to send them a little something, a pack of mermaid stickers, or like Jane Tucson bookmarks, or something, like whatever, like little something
nice.
I have, because like you got it for you, but also now look at all the other people who will get a chance to be able
Who will
to
get
read and have
exactly
access
be
to it.
exposed to it.
Yes, absolutely. So I try to, and I still will. Like you can definitely like send those to me, info@martidumas.com. You can send me all and tell me that you ordered
And
it.
Marti,
Try
and
to
your
send
first name is spelled Marti.
Marti
For people,
MAS.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Marti. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today,
Yeah,
and
great to
I'm
talk to
so
you.
happy for you, proud of you, and just continue peace and power to your writing hand. Always try to wish all the writers I know well, and I know this time period is a little wonky for us, but we are, you're doing the good works, and I just really was excited to talk with you, and congratulations again on all your new works.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for doing so much work to uplift the voices of writers. I've been following your series
Yeah.